What's going on, guys? No Guides here. Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to go over team press. I'm going to explain to you what it is, what's the differences from last year, what's changed, and how it actually works in game, and what's the benefits and pros and cons of using it this year. If you want to skip ahead to a certain timestamp, the timestamps will be in the description, but let's just go through this fluidly. So first of all, what is team press? Well, team press is a mechanic that you can use in the game, a quick tactic which is used to allow your team to press. So let's say, for example, your opponent is holding the ball or he's wasting time, or if you're losing and you need to get the ball back as soon as you can activate team press to allow your AI team to press, which makes it easier for you to get the ball and attack your opponent to regain possession again. As I mentioned, it's mainly to be used in a state when you're losing in the game. That means when you want to get the ball back as soon as you can. You shouldn't be using this when you're winning, but more when you're losing. So it's very simple. When you're in a game, you press down your D-pad, then you open up the quick tactics for defense tactics. Then you want to press left on your D-pad and you'll activate the D-pad tactic team press. Then as you can see, as soon as you activate team press, your team just presses automatically. Even if you don't do anything, your team will just press and go forward towards your opponent's ball carrier. As soon as you regain ball possession again, nothing else will happen. It's only when you don't have the ball that team press is active. Now there is issues with team press. You do lose a lot of stamina, so you can't use this for the entire game, although it is very effective to use when you don't have the ball. And also you leave gaps in behind, so your team pressing, your opponent can do a quick through ball down the wing or in behind, so do bear that in mind. What's important though, last year team press was so effective that they ended up making some changes to team press. Last year the way you activated team press is the exact same way. You press down your D-pad, then you press left. But last year it was like a light switch. Think of it like you're going into your bedroom and you turn the light on. As soon as you turn the light on or you activate team press, it stays on the entire time until you turn it off. So last year you just had to press it on and it'll be on for the entire game up until you turn it off again. Whereas in contrast, this year it's more like a timer. It's a 30-second timer with a 2-minute cooldown, but I'll get onto that all in a second. But first, let's go through team press in general and how that works with formations, and then we'll go through how the new changes work and what's going to happen in the game. Don't forget, I'm pretty sure this will be nerfed as well. It is too overpowered in its current mechanics, so do expect a patch to come out, I would say, by next month as well. It's a third patch so far. I would say the fourth patch probably will fix this because it is too overpowered. Now EA have not given us any official information on team press and custom tactics apart from the bare basics. I took it upon the liberty of testing it myself. Now the first thing you need to understand is constant pressure. What you can see here, this tactic will put high pressure over your opposing players on the field. This tactic may leave your team vulnerable as players become increasingly fatigued, leading to them being pushed out of position. That is essentially what team press is. Constant pressure and team press are the exact same thing. The only difference is constant pressure is actually a defensive style, whereas team press is actually a D-pad tactic which can be used in game. So what's the difference? Well, constant pressure, like my 4-4-2 picture that I showed you with the tactics of pressing, there's no time limit. So this year there's a time limit on team press, but I'll explain that in a second. But with constant pressure, there's no time limit. So let's say, for example, on your defensive formation, let's say you had dynamic tactics and you set up for example, your defensive formation to have constant pressure on it. Let's just say, for example, now if you have that on constant pressure, you may want to use your defensive formation in the game, but you may not want to use constant pressure the entire time. So what you do, for example, is you use something like balanced, then you activate the D-pad tactics for team press in the game. When you activate the D-pad tactics, it basically overrides this defensive style. So let's say you're using pressure on heavy touch, or you're using drop back, or you're using balanced, or anything, press after possession loss, even constant pressure. If you activate the D-pad tactic, it will always override this. So let's say, for example, in the game on your defensive formation, you're using balanced. Then let's say your opponent gets a goal last minute, you don't want to change formation, you can activate the team press on the fly. And also, as you can see from this clip, team press is very reactive. As soon as you press it, it activates straight away. Whereas, for example, constant pressure, you have to wait for a profound period of time or wait for the ball to go out of play or out of bounds for the formation to then change. So essentially, constant pressure is just to be used, for example, let's say you have an all-out attack formation, you need to get the ball back as soon as you can. That's where constant pressure is to be used because there's no time limit, there's no restricts. You could basically use this formation and change it and leave it on the entire game. Whereas, for example, team press is merely for, let's say, for example, you have an attacking tactic that's not all-out attack. Let's say you're losing 1-0. It's not 90 minutes, it's not 80 minutes, like 50 minutes. You don't want to go all-out attack. Then you can use, for example, balance, for example. Let's say your opponent is holding the ball too much. You can activate team press very quickly, turn it on, and then turn it off on the fly. So what's changed this year? Well, last year team press was so effective, so what they did is they changed it. So last year, as you may or may not know, team press was a D-pad tactic. You press down, you press left. Just how you do it this year, but there was no limit. It's like a light switch. As soon as it's turned on, it will remain on the entire game. This year, there's a timer. There is a 30 seconds egg timer. So that means you can only use team press 30 seconds at a time. Once 30 seconds is completed, then there'll be a 2-minute recharge. So you can use team press for 30 seconds. Then after it's been fully depleted, it will take a full 2 minutes for the bar to recharge again. Now what's important is you can only recharge this bar when you're not using team press. So you can't have team press activated. So if you want to recharge this bar, you can't have team press activated, and it only recharges when your opponent has the ball. You can also use it when it's not fully recharged. So let's say for example you have 30 seconds of full team press to use. Let's say you only use it for 5 seconds for a short burst. It will then take 20 seconds to recharge, because obviously it's a 2 minute for the full recharge. So 4 times however much. So if you use it for example for 10 seconds, it will then take 40 seconds for that 10 seconds to recharge again. So you can use it as much as you want within that circle. So you can turn it on and off as long as that circle is there and active. You can use it. If the 30 seconds is depleted, that means you can't use team press. You have to wait for it to recharge to at least a couple of seconds before you can activate it again. So the key thing is this stops you from using it the entire game and only allows you to use it for 30 seconds or in short bursts, or use it for certain periods of time without abusing it in the game. The key with this is to use it when you're losing. So let's say for example here my opponent has the ball, and as you can see when I activate team press, my players just literally just run and hound him to get the ball back. And as you can see, I'm using my D-pad. I'm pressing, you can't really see the timer. The only way you can see the timer if you press down the D-pad. As you can see, I'm constantly pressing down to see the timer. So you have to bear in mind, have in the back of your head when you use the D-pad tactic or team press, remember you only have a set period of time. And the most important thing is, as soon as you regain possession of the ball, team press is still on. So even if you regain possession of the ball and then let's say you lose it again, then team press is activated. So it's still like an on and off switch. However, if you leave it on and after 30 seconds, the 30 seconds of team press has been depleted, then it automatically switches off. However, let's say you only used it for 10 seconds, then you win the ball back. If you then happen to lose the ball again, then team press will still be active. So if you lose the ball after that, your opponents will press immediately. So just remember, there's a 30-second timer you can only use it for, and a 2-minute cooldown. And that is basically team press. You're meant to use this when you're losing in a game. So let's say, for example, you're losing 1-0 or 2-0. Not when it's 45 minutes, but let's say 60 minutes. You feel the game is getting away from you, or your opponent's holding the ball or wasting time. You'll activate team press to help you get the ball back. As soon as you end up drawing or it becomes 1-1, make sure you turn team press off. If you don't turn team press off, you could lose stamina. And what's also important is, let's say for example some instructions on the players are for example conservative, team press will override that. So if you have for example someone on conservative interceptions, if you activate team press, they'll be aggressive anyway. But that is just a quick lowdown on team press. Don't forget you press down the D-pad, then you press left to activate team press. Don't forget as well you can use it for up to 30 seconds at a time, and it only recharges when your opponent has the ball. Don't forget you can use it within that time frame, but if you do win the ball back and team press is still activated, it will always be active up until the 30 seconds runs out. If you happen to gain possession during that 30 seconds, the timer halts and it pauses. Then once you lose the ball again, your team will press up until the time is turned off. Thanks for watching, take it easy, and I'll catch you next time.